Master Hongren knew that evening someone was going to have an awakening, someone was going to reach Buddhahood, and that someone was Huineng. So he got things ready, you know, what kind of preparations. There was this river called Jiujiang near Dongchan Temple in Huangmei County, and right by the river, there was a ferry dock next to a post station. Master Hongren got a boat ready at the dock. After getting everything set, at dusk, he finally went to the rice pounding room. Huineng was right in the middle of pounding rice. Let me tell you, pounding rice was no joke. They had this big pile of stones hanging above a thick wooden pole, like a lever. When you stepped on one end, the other end would go up, and when you let go, bam! It would pound the rice. Now, Huineng wasn't exactly a tough guy. He didn't have a lot of strength. But he figured out a trick. He grabbed a big stone and put it on his waist, adding some weight. They called it pounding rice with a waist stone. When Master Hongren saw Huineng pounding rice like that, his first words were, "Someone seeking the way should forget about his body and be devoted to the Dharma, just like this." He appreciates him. If you're looking for enlightenment, you should forget about your own body and focus on the teachings, just like Huineng did. Then, Master Hongren asks him, "Is the rice done?" Basically, he's asking, is the rice well pounded? Huineng is no ordinary person. How could he just take Master Hongren's question at face value? Huineng responds, "The rice has been done for ages," meaning the rice was pounded a long time ago. But he adds, it still needs sifting, meaning the final step of using a sieve. Master Hongren is a smart cookie? How could he just take Huineng's response literally? He immediately gets what Huineng is getting at. Doesn't the word sieve sound like teacher or master? If you write it out, it's pretty clear. Remove the bamboo part of the character sieve, and you get teacher in Chinese. Master Hongren knows that Huineng is telling him, "I, Huineng, have been ready for a while now. I just need the last step, and it's up to you, Master, to help me reach enlightenment." Master Hongren doesn't say anything either. He raises his staff and knocks on the floor 3 times, and then he leaves. Huineng gets it perfectly. He's instructed to go to the abbot's quarters at midnight. At the 3rd watch of the night, Huineng arrived at the abbot's quarters. Master Hongren used a large robe to tightly cover the windows, preventing any light from leaking out. Finally, under the dim light, he began to expound on the Diamond Sutra to Huineng. When he reached the phrase, "to have no fixed idea, yet give rise to the mind," the Platform Sutra of the 6th Patriarch does not record the exact words of Venerable Hongren's explanation of these 11 words. Instead, it states that after listening to his explanation, Huineng had a profound realization and said, "Now, let me continue with your teachings." Huineng immediately uttered 5 he chi, which means I hadn't realized our true nature is inherently pure. Our true nature refers to our inherent nature, our inherent mind, and the mind that arises from this, which is Buddha nature possessed by everyone. I hadn't realized our true nature is inherently free from birth and death. It is neither born nor dies. I hadn't realized our true nature is inherently unshakable. Regardless of our life circumstances, whether favorable or adverse, joyful or fearful, it cannot be shaken. I hadn't realized our true nature is inherently complete. The truth of all things is inherently present in our true nature. This coincides with the saying by Mencius, "All qualities are already within me. To be sincere and cultivate oneself is the greatest joy." The truth is not to be sought outside of our inherent mind. I hadn't realized our true nature has the capacity to give rise to all phenomena. Phenomena refers to all things, and the true meaning of all things is revealed through our Buddha nature. Usually, the significance we grasp from things is not their true essence. Only after realizing our Buddha nature does the true meaning of all things manifest. These are the 5 he-chi expressions. As soon as Master Hongren heard Huineng utter these 5 expressions, he knew that Huineng had attained enlightenment and passed on the Dharma robe to him. So, what can we learn from Huineng's enlightenment? Well, it's all about those 11 words from the Diamond Sutra, to have no fixed idea, yet give rise to the mind. In simple terms, when you free your mind from attachments, you reveal your true nature and become one with the Buddha. It's the idea that your heart and the Buddha are inseparable. Zen Buddhism, founded by Master Huineng, is all about this. Basically, it's about understanding the mind in Buddhism. It's about recognizing the true nature of your mind, which is the Buddha nature. Everyone has it, but we often miss it because our minds aren't fully waken up. It's not like seeing with your eyes, like visualizing, in Buddhist practice. When they talk about observing, they're not talking about using your eyes. They mean the awakening of your true heart. And let me tell you, this true heart is something incredible, as vast as the sky. It means that your universe is inside your heart, and your heart is the same as the universe. When you let go of your ego, that's when you remove the separation between yourself and others. You erase the line that separates you from everyone else. We're so hung up on this self. We're always comparing ourselves to others, feeling jealous if they're better and getting all arrogant if they're worse. But here's the thing, is this self we're so fixated on really who we are deep down? Nah, not really. That's why the first step in Zen practice is all about tackling this problem and shrinking that ego. If Huineng was still alive, he'd be chilling at Nanhua Temple in Shaoguan, Guangdong, also known as Baolin Temple back in the day. He'd be running the show at the Dongshan Dharma Assembly. And guess what? I, Wang Defeng, would roll up to meet him. I'd have a purpose in mind. I want to find out if I've really found enlightenment. I assume Huineng would actually see me. And when he does, he'd throw some questions at me, all in that ancient Chinese style. First, he'd be like, "What is it?" Then, he'd follow up with, "How'd it get here?" Basically, he'd want to know who I am and where do I come from. Now, if I were to answer with something like, "Oh, I am a professor from Fudan and hopped on a plane to get here," man, Huineng would instantly know that I ain't awakened at all. And at that point, there wouldn't be much more to talk about. So, how do I tackle his first question? Being a professor at Fudan University doesn't define who I truly am. Back in 1966, during the Cultural Revolution, I was just a 3rd grader in elementary school. But boy, did I quickly figure out my label. My dad was called a capitalist roader, and my mom was labeled a runaway landlord. That made me the little troublemaker, you know? But being a little troublemaker definitely doesn't define my true essence. Time flew by, and now that former troublemaker is a professor at Fudan University. Can I say that being a Fudan professor is my true essence because of that? Nope, can't say that either. Just like being a troublemaker wasn't my true essence, being a Fudan professor isn't either. So, how the heck should I answer his question? What is it? Even being a citizen of the People's Republic of China doesn't define my true essence. It's just a legal thing, right? But what if I became a US citizen one day? Let's try a different approach. Someone's husband, someone's father, these roles don't define my true essence either. Is there any guy who's naturally born a husband? Nah, he becomes a husband because his wife makes him one. Is there any guy who's naturally born a father? Nah, he becomes a father on the day his son is born, and his son brings out that fatherhood in him. So, no matter what I say, it's all wrong. So, how the heck should I respond? It's not a thing, it hasn't arrived. Only my physical body has arrived, but the Buddha nature doesn't come or go. If I were to answer like this, I believe Huineng would be on board. That would mean I'm someone who's awakened, and there's still a chance for further communication. This gives us a sneak peek into the essence of Zen's teachings. It's a deep-rooted problem, you know? Stop thinking you're better than everyone else and let go of all that stuff that doesn't define who you really are. Don't bring it out and compare yourself to others because it's not your true essence. That's why Huineng told that monk who was making fun of him, don't underestimate beginners, because disrespecting others is a boundless sin. That statement hits the nail on the head. It gets to the core of all the problems in human civilization. What's that core problem? Disregarding others. And that's why it's called a serious sin that has no bounds. You should give Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, a read. If you just read that book, you'll see that the person who wrote it thought he had some noble mission to save the world. But guess what? That same Hitler ended up committing unspeakable atrocities. Why? Because he didn't think much of other people. First, he looked down on the Jews. Then, he looked down on the Slavic folks and carried out the horrific act of genocide. It all stems from looking down on others, you see. Buddhism really hits the nail on the head when it comes to identifying the root cause of this sickness in civilized society. In the history of Zen Buddhism, the first patriarch, Bodhidharma, hailed from India. He came to China, known as the Eastern Land, to spread the Buddhist Dharma. Along the way, he encountered Emperor Wu of the Liang dynasty, a devout Buddhist. Bodhidharma aimed to guide and enlighten him, so they had a chat. Emperor Wu asked Bodhidharma, "I've built countless temples and supported so many monks in my lifetime. Is that worth some major merit and virtue?" Bodhidharma replied, "Nah, that ain't called merit, it's not about that." Emperor Wu wasn't too thrilled by this response. Later on, someone brought up this tale to Master Huineng, who had already achieved enlightenment and was leading the Dongshan assembly in Guangdong. They posed the question, and Huineng said, "No doubt about it, Bodhidharma hit the nail on the head. What Emperor Wu did wasn't about earning merit and virtue, it was only about giving charity." So, this person kept on pestering Huineng, "You say what he did wasn't meritorious and virtuous, then what do you think it is?" Huineng came back with a short and sweet answer, "Realizing who we truly are is merit, and treating everyone equally is virtue." So, what does merit mean? It's when our minds reach a certain state of understanding, where we grasp our Buddha nature, see our true selves, and know our original nature. And what about virtue? It's all about how we interact with others. The golden rule is equality. Treating everyone on the same level is virtue. Put them together, and you've got merit and virtue. So, when you're into Zen, when you're learning Zen, the first thing you gotta do is practice Buddhist ethics. It's the same for all schools, you know. Restraint, meditation, and wisdom, it's the whole package, right? But what kind of restraint does Zen emphasize? It's all about never disrespecting others. That's the name of the game in Zen. Without this step, you can't really get into the zone of meditation and wisdom. Some schools have strict rules when it comes to restraint, especially the Vinaya school with its long list of do's and don'ts. But what's the bottom line? The true fundamental restraint is treating everyone equally, never looking down on anyone. That's what Zen is all about. Some folks take their Buddhist practice seriously, doing their homework diligently. I've got this friend from high school who's like that. In their daily routine, there's this thing called Bai, where they go all out and prostrate to the Buddha. So, one day when I visited him, he was in the middle of their prostration. It wasn't time to get up yet, he had to finish the whole thing, you know? And it was scorching hot, but he didn't even turn on the AC. I was amazed at how much he was sweating from his devotion. I couldn't do that myself. He knew I had arrived, so after he finished his prostration and stood up, the first thing he said to me was some juicy gossip. That's when I told him, "You just wasted your prostration. What you were doing earlier was just a workout." He asked, "Why did you say that?" I said, "Haven't you read the Platform Sutra? Paying respects to the Buddha is important, but it's not about bowing to that clay or wooden statue. It's just a fancy statue. Why do you bow then? It's about letting go of your ego. When you bow, your head has to touch the ground. If it doesn't, it means you still have some arrogance or self-righteousness lingering. It's not the real deal. You've got to fully let go of your ego. That's why we do those full-on prostrations. It's a daily reminder that it's not about that clay or wooden Buddha statue being worthy of worship." I told them, "Read the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch, then you can continue with your prostrations."